Hello everybody, this is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and today we're going to talk about how to feed your chickens. If your chickens are anything like mine, they are always hungry. In fact, mine are eating all day long whether they are hungry or not. We were spending almost $20 a week for layer pellets or layer crumble, and we got to the point where I said no more. Well, I'm not sure how the economy is where you are living, but here in West Virginia, everything costs more than it did just a couple years ago. And many people are having to decide if they are going to be able to feed their animals through the winter. Today, I am going to share some ideas on what has lowered our feed bill at least 75%. And these ideas are going to help you to get through the winter strong. Layer pellets and layer crumbles are a relatively new item. If you look at the history of raising chickens, they have only been in the last century. Before that, chickens were pretty much free-ranging. And although free-ranging is a great way to save some money, you do need to supplement with a little bit more than that. Americans waste a huge amount of food every single year. And in fact, for 10 years, I did not have any chickens. And all I kept thinking is, if I'd only had chickens, I had some food that was not good for us, but would have been fine for them. A few months ago, I found this Eco Scraps for organic gardening. And it is plant food for my herbs and my leafy greens. But what I really was attracted to is it says grow gardens, not landfills. It was the back of this bag that caught my attention. And it says Americans throw away over 30 million tons of food waste a year. And in America, nearly 40% of food goes uneaten. That is a lot of food, and that food could be feeding your chickens. And here is an example. This morning I reached into my vegetable fruit drawer of my refrigerator to get an apple for work, and when I picked it up, the bottom of it had gone bad. Now, before I had chickens, I would have just tossed this away and said, well, it figures, I lost an apple. But now I have several choices. One, I could compost it, and that would grow more food. But what I do is I feed anything like this to my chickens. Don't throw it away. They love apples. Another thing I do, I plant food for my chickens through the winter. This is my garden. As you can see, there's a lot of tomatoes here. Now, chickens should not eat the tomato plant itself. It is from the nightshade family. But there are lots of tomatoes, and many of these will be nibbled on by tomato hornworms or cracked from the sudden heat. This is what I'm talking about. We had a tomato hornworm on this tomato plant. Now, last night we found the tomato hornworm, and those chickens loved eating him. That tomato hornworm not only ate the leaves of my tomato, but they ate some of the tomatoes. They nibbled on them, so they didn't destroy them. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put these 3 tomatoes on my back porch on the table, and I'm going to let them ripen. This is free food. Otherwise, people, you would not have eaten this. You would have thrown it away or put it in your compost. But for me, I have just fed my chickens. So what else do I plant for myself but end up giving to the chickens? Right here. This is a very hot cherry pepper. Now, I did not plant cherry peppers. I was a victim of the Peppergate. And here's an interesting fact for you. Chickens don't taste hot. And so you can give your chickens hot peppers and they will eat them right down. Another item that I raise is herbs. Oregano and basil are particularly good for your chickens. And if you know anything about herbs, they grow like crazy. And this is my basil, and what I like to do is just pick off some sprigs and give them to my chickens. What is this funky looking thing? This is a lettuce, and I have let it go to seed so I can collect the seeds. But did you know there's still a lot of leaves on this lettuce plant? And my chickens will eat that free food, and that's what it's all about, free food. Corn is one of my chickens' favorite foods. And did you know you can give them corn that we used to call nubbins, the little ones that didn't fill out the small little ear that's the second one on the stalk. And here is a food that we grew for ourselves, but the chickens love. This is sweet potatoes. Now, we're not going to eat the leaves, but the chickens are. And so the potatoes themselves are growing under my woven weave fabric, but these leaves are such a treat to my birds, they go crazy over them. Besides the food that I grow for our family and share with my chickens, I also grow food just for my chickens. One of the big crops that I grow is sunflower seeds, and this is a mammoth sunflower. Each one of those little flowers is attached to a seed, and once it is pollinated, this entire head is going to feed my chickens for a week. I grow a huge amount of sunflowers, enough that I can cut them when they are finished growing, and this one's almost finished. I can cut them, hang them in my garage, and once a week I throw the entire sunflower head into my chickens. Not only does it entertain them, but it gives them a good source of protein. Watermelon. I grow a lot of watermelon, both for my family, but I also grow them just for my chickens. Chickens love watermelon. And not only is it a treat, I try to give them a wide variety of foods, and this is one of them that they are excited to have. And they grow so big, so this watermelon will feed all 20 of my chickens at least 2 days. Pumpkins. This is another food I grow for my chickens. I also grow a few of them for myself, but in the winter, I pull them out of my root cellar, and once a week I cut it in half and give them a pumpkin to eat. Squash. Now, this squash was not the squash that I planted. I planted acorn, and somehow my seeds got all mixed up. I planted my seeds myself, but what I discovered, my chickens love it. So again, I will cut it from the stem, put it in my root cellar, and once a week, give them a squash. Those ladies completely ate those squash out. There is nothing in there, girls. Good job. Cabbage. Cabbage is very easy to raise, and it again makes something that's very large. In the winter, I will cut one and I will string it and I hang it from the ceiling in their coop. And that will give them, again, something they can play with, but something they can eat. I decided to grow some of the yard-long beans this year, and although they are delicious, my chickens were not impressed with them when I gave them to them raw. But you know what? If I cut them up and I cook them, they go crazy. So sometimes you need to cook it. It might be really hard, such as carrots, but if you cook them and make them soft, they are going to go for it. Our garden has a fence that is 6 feet between our chickens in their run and our garden, so that whenever we are out in the garden and we have some extra food, we just toss it to our chickens, and as you can see, they are always here and waiting. What else can I feed them? Grass. As long as you do not spray your grass from your yard, it is healthy and your chickens love it. And what about your own pantry? In the winter, I like to cook them rice. They love rice. Pasta, same kind of thing. Leftovers, anything I don't eat, a little vegetable here, a little vegetable there. I like to make them some oatmeal. Popcorn. And in fact, anytime I'm in a store and I see something clearance with a really good price and maybe the expiration date is coming up, I think about my chickens, think about what they might like to eat. And so I found an entire thing of sunflower seeds for $1. They love sunflower seeds, so that is a definite treat. Did you can something a few years ago because you got it for a good price, but nobody in the house will eat it? That would be beets. I canned these in August 2021. Nobody liked them. Jim said they tasted like dirt. But you know what? My chickens love dirt and they love beets. And talking free food. There's a cricket. Put some bricks or some pieces of wood down, and then underneath you will get some insects. Keep those insects and feed them to your chickens. Have you ever raised mealworms? What about earthworms? Earthworms are so easy. We did it for years in a big old bathtub. Chickens love worms. Are your chickens laying more eggs than you could possibly sell or use? Then scramble some, cook it up, and give it to those chickens. Again, that is free food. So if you're not growing all this food, where could you get it? This year, I called my local grocery store and I asked them what they do with their produce that they can't sell. I was blown away to find out that 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, they give away truckloads of food to the local farmers. And when I say give away, I mean totally free. And so I said that I would come on a Thursday and pick up an entire load, which I did. Many of it was food scraps, the parts that they cut off watermelons or pineapples, but a lot of it was brand new produce. And so I would get 5 or 6 brand new watermelons with nothing wrong with them. And my chickens went crazy for them. So call the local stores and find out what they do with their produce that may not be perfect anymore. You might be surprised to find that they actually will give it to you for free, and free is best. Another area that I have found quite a bit of markdown food is in the grocery store at the markdown produce section. It is clearance produce, and that's where I actually get all my apples. I can get 8, 9, 10 apples for $1, or some dried out corn on the cob that no one else wanted to purchase at full price. I can get it very inexpensive. I am always looking for free food for my chickens. So if I eat out at a restaurant and can't eat all my food, I bring it back for the chickens. If my kids go to school and they have something in their lunch that they don't like, such as this, they bring it home for the chickens. And something like these craisins, I am not going to just feed my chickens craisins, because if I look at it, the very first ingredient is sugar. And so I am very cautious in what I give them. But again, as a treat, it gives them the cranberry. There's no artificial flavors or preservatives. And so this is something that I got free and my chickens like. I've heard that schools will often dump the food that their students don't eat into buckets, and farmers can pick those up for their animals as well. Another crop that we raise solely for our animals is millet. We have planted 1.5 acres of millet. Half of that is going to feed our rabbits and our chickens over the winter, and the rest of it is going to be baled, similar to baling hay, to feed our beef cattle in the spring. This is some of last year's millet crop, and we don't even remove the seeds from the stalk. So these chickens absolutely love it. I also like to give my chickens food scraps. So this was the bottom of the broccoli. Yes, we could eat it, but I'm not really a big fan of broccoli, but my chickens are. So how do you make the transition from buying all your feed to giving them alternatives? You do it slowly, and you do just part of it. So I went from feeding 1 bag a week, and now I feed 1 bag a month. At $20 a pop, that saves me $60 a month. And when you're looking at a year, that is so worth it. Another idea is to ferment your feed, and I want to start experimenting with that this year. So I am not real familiar. I know that all you do is you put some feed in the bucket and you fill it with water. Then you let it sit for 3 days and feed it to your chickens, and it has expanded and feeds them farther than if you just gave them a scoop of feed. One of the most important things you need to know is that your chickens need at least 17% protein in order to lay. So even though you may be able to cut back and give them other things, make sure they're getting protein. I also have my own farm stand, and what I do is every single day I look at my produce to make sure it's still good, because I only want to sell the best to my customers. Anything that starts to get a little mushy, I give it to my chickens. So as the seasons start to change and we start moving into fall, I know it's pretty heavy on a lot of your minds about how you are going to take care of all your animals as well as your family. So I highly recommend you make a list of all the various ways that you can get food for your animals. Now, I was focusing specifically on chickens, but it goes across the board from your pets to your livestock. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. And have a blessed evening, everybody. Bye-bye.